The BarSmart interview form is basically a one-page form that ties to the software. It allows you to take an application at a trade show, at a workshop that you're doing, and a live event. In many cases, we have clients fill these out directly at the event. It could be something that you mail to your clients as part of a direct mail campaign. Maybe you send out to 200 or 300 clients an email with this form attached, allowing them to put their information in and send it back to you for a complete liability audit or interview process. So think of this as a paper application that can be used that ties directly to the software. The very first time you open this in Word, you may want to change the name. You'll probably want to put in your fax or your email address where you'd like to have the form sent. You may or may not want to change the logo, but you would certainly want to put in your name, email, and phone. From there, we have the client names, birth dates, their tax brackets, address, city, state, and zip, their best contact number and email, and also their 2008 gross income. All right, so again, this can be a reminder. I had these in a pad, usually 30 to 40 pages. I'd go to Kinko's or a local copy place, and they will actually print them and put them in pads for you. I like to use it as sort of a scratch application when I had a client calling in. So it gave me sort of a place to make sure before I was done with the interview or the call that I was going to get this vital information. I also knew if I had this information, I had what I needed to create the first step of my planning process, which was to take the information and look at their current situation to see from an eligibility standpoint, did I think I'd be able to work with them? And from a suitability standpoint, was there some value that I could provide to that client? Now the next two sections you'll note say new house purchased only or existing house refinance only. Obviously if you're buying a new home, you won't need to put the information into this area. If you're refinancing a home, you won't need to put the information into this area. And again, these are field for field tied to the software. If you collect the information on this worksheet or your clients fill out this form, you'll have everything you need to create a plan. We have here an opportunity to list their current liabilities. Now due to page limitations, we have 4 here. We used to just simply turn a page over and write on the back if they had additional obligations, or summarize, put in the primary mortgage, a secondary mortgage, auto, and then put all credit cards for an initial interview. You can always break out and get the details later from a credit report or from additional information. If the loan's adjustable, you want to know that, what's the fixed term, and when did it start? So if they have a 5-year ARM and it started in 2005, we know we only have 1 year before that ARM is going to adjust or reset. Important goals or objectives, probably the most important field on this page. It gives you an opportunity to simply address with the client what are some of the key goals or things that they would like to have accomplished. My favorite question was, if we could only do one thing together, what would that one thing be? There may be a ton of things we end up accomplishing, but I'd really like to know from you is if we could only do one thing together, what would that one thing be? It'll really get you quickly to what's the most important thing to the client about this transaction. Now we have if you think about the top part of this form as the eligibility world, these are really questions about income and other things. There's some suitability here, but the bottom is really a conversation about suitability. How long will you need that home? We want to avoid overpaying and protecting the home for risk that really doesn't need to be protected for. If I'm going to be in a house for 5 or 6 years, I don't need a 30-year fix to give myself interest rate protection. I can get a lower rate with a 3, 5, or 7-year product. How soon would I like to pay this home off? Any of these can be an opportunity to go much deeper, depending on your style. Some people might spend a half hour to 45 minutes on this one page by going through and understanding their specific goals and objectives. In other words, would I like to pay this house off quickly, or is my goal to pay it off never? Why is that? What are you trying to accomplish? You may find out that they have some very specific beliefs or goals that you can help them with. What's the approximate value of your other assets? Now, these are just 3 groups that have been used in other studies to show typical Americans will fall into one of these 3 groups. The mass affluent are going to be in this middle area. So we'd look at this as just sort of a segmentation to see where they're at. Remember, every field ties into the software. Someone who has $25,000 or less is going to be more likely to be considered conservative on our risk pyramid based on that question and other questions that they answer. Do you plan on any major purchases, and what's the amount needed for that purchase? Would you like to roll closing costs in? Would you like to, in a perfect world, have the lowest possible payment, higher tax deduction? with the offset being paying little or no principal, or would you rather have a higher payment with lower deduction but make sure you're paying that principal each month? And from a risk standpoint, I recommend here you ask from both perspectives, from both sides of the balance sheet. From an investment standpoint, do you consider yourself aggressive, moderate, or conservative? Just ask that question first. Now, from a borrowing standpoint, do you consider yourself aggressive, moderate, or conservative? Looking to see, are they consistent there in that, are they aggressive in investing but conservative in borrowing, or do they answer those pretty much the same? But again, each of these questions are important because each provides valuable feedback that will be used in the software itself to help create an analysis for that client. So use this form as part of a Scratch app on your desk when a new client calls in, at a minimum just to get their phone number and their name and their email as a first starting point if the call is short. Consider mailing this out to your clients. Consider using this with your partners and referral partners, CPAs. Again, we made the pads up because we found that pads didn't get thrown away. If we left a sheet, that sheet got lost, it got thrown away. When we had these made into pads, we could take a pad by a CPA office, a realtor office, a financial advisor, any third-party referral source, and weeks later, that pad would still be there, and they can use this as a prescription pad to put in a client name, phone number, and stuff, and send that over to you to begin the process.